So I'm in my scene one right now, and I'm going to talk about how to navigate the view space and create basic primitive shapes within Maya. So we're going to start our 3D modeling here, and I think it's important to take this, slowly, one step at a time. And if you don't fully grasp the concepts, watch the video again for sure. So in this video, we're mostly focusing on how to navigate in 3D space because that can be really difficult if you've never done that before. For instance, if you've worked exclusively in 2D, such as Illustrator or Photoshop up to this point, navigating in 3D can be really tricky and a little bit unintuitive at first. So what I'm going to do is simply click up here, and I'm going to select this cube. And this is going to generate a polygonal cube in the center of my screen. So if I click that, the cube pops in. And there's lots of things going on here that we'll talk about later. But right now, I just want you to get used to navigating your scene. So to navigate the scene, I'm using a 3-button mouse. If you're using a trackpad, your mileage may vary. It's going to be very different. I would really recommend just purchasing a cheap, $5 3-button mouse, a mouse that has a right, left, and middle click. So to zoom in and out, we can simply scroll the wheel on the mouse, the middle mouse, in and out. That's pretty standard. Alternatively, if we hold down Alt or Option and right click, as we hold down the right click, we can zoom in and out as we move it back and forth. And sometimes it's a little bit smoother than the mouse wheel, as you can see. To rotate our view, I'm going to hold down that same Alt or Option view and left click. And the left click within Maya, basically this is orbiting. It's not really a rotation, it's actually orbiting our camera around whatever is selected. So even if I'm clicking over here, I'm orbiting around what's selected. And then lastly, I'm still holding down that Alt or Option key, and I just do a middle click. And this can be a little tricky if you've never done a middle click before, but I'm clicking in that mouse wheel and then moving my mouse around. And this is a proper pan. So what we're doing is we're sort of moving our camera around the scene to different objects, so we can actually, get in different perspectives and then zoom in and out on those perspectives. So again, all of that's just holding down the Alt or Option, and then it's the right click, the left click, and the middle click. So get the hang of that. Get the hang of, I want to zoom in on just this corner, how you're going to actually do that within Maya, because it can be really tricky if you've never done it before. Let's talk about framing, or the F key. The F key on the keyboard, whenever you tap it, frames whatever's currently selected and allows you to really quickly reorient yourself. It's very easy to accidentally do like this in Maya and be completely lost. And if you're completely lost, you just simply hit the F key on your keyboard and it will reframe on your origin point. Now, if you have an object selected, so I've just left-clicked this object, see how it's highlighted in green. Whenever I tap F, it's going to zoom in on that object and frame it within my viewport. So that makes my life a little bit easier navigating around. So one other navigation thing I want to talk about is different viewports. So right now we're in the perspective viewport, or the pers viewport we can see down here. And that just basically means that this is a perspective view. It operates just like a real camera or real human eyes. Basically, vanishing points exist. There's perspective, right? We can view these objects, and they have a sense of like dimensionality to them, and parallel lines do eventually meet because of how our eyes work. So there's other views that are called orthographic views that can help us get more like draftsman style, more accurate views of this object, because like I said, this is as if we're viewing it through a camera, so things kind of shift and change as we move around. So let's switch to one of those orthographic views. And on the left-hand side, we have a bunch of different views. And this first one, this is the panel layout that we're currently using. The second one right here with the 4, whenever I click that, it switches to a 4-view layout. And I use this layout all the time. So in the right-hand corner, I have the perspective view. This is a top Y orthographic view. This is a front Z orthographic view and a side X orthographic view. So these can all be independently changed and modified, and they just allow us to get different perspectives of our model as we're working on them. Remember, we're working in 3D space now, so it's important that our models look good from all angles. To switch back, I can simply click this viewport button and it'll switch back to the basic viewport. Now I'll show you a little hotkey to quickly do this. If we just tap the spacebar, don't hold the spacebar, but tap it, it will switch to the 4-view viewport system. What I really love about doing this is that whatever my mouse is over, if I tap that spacebar again, that's the view that will occupy the center of my screen. So if I tap this top view and I hit spacebar, now that top view is my central view. If I tap that spacebar again and I go back over here and tap spacebar, now that perspective view is my central view once more. So this tapping the spacebar and switching back and forth, this is a really common practice that you're going to get the hang of as you use Maya more and more. There's other views over here that we'll get into at a future date. Basically, this is a split view, and this last one is the outliner. And we'll get into these, but basically they operate very similar to how we were using the other views before. So we have this basic model in here. And as you probably have noticed by this point, you can select and deselect this model. So we're selecting this object right now, and it's highlighted in green. And whenever I click off of it, I've now deselected it. So I don't have anything selected. Let's go ahead and select the model and just hit the delete key on your keyboard to delete the model. So now that object's gone. And let's click one of these other primitive objects. So I'll click the sphere, and that'll pop a sphere in. And I can hit delete to remove it. And I can hit the cylinder to pop a cylinder in, and there's various others. Just try and play around with these and work with that camera to really get a good handle on using the Alt or Option key to zoom in and out, to rotate your view, and to shift your perspective around. Don't forget about that F key, that frame key, and how to switch views to these orthographic and perspective views. So what I'd like you to do is take about 10 minutes and go through and use these different models as starting points and just try to I'm just going to try and zoom in on just the tip of this or just the base of this and try and work with the viewport to make sure that you understand how the view system works within Maya before moving on to the next video.